So guys, welcome to the next video, and we are here at our workshop, and Chris and I are going to show you now how to build one of our guns. So Chris.
So I've been here this whole week here in Germany with Thomas Spohr, learning how to put together the Spore revolvers and how to work on them so I can offer these services in the United States. They've had a need for having those services in the US, and now we're here to deliver those, and say a whole week of training is going to go a long ways. So first off, we're going to start off with fitting the yoke to the Spore revolver. So here we're going to fit the yoke. The yoke on the Spore revolver is similar but different than the Smith & Wesson. They have a unique way we can adjust it without having to bend it like we do on the Smith. On the Smith & Wesson, we had to physically bend that yoke and force it around, and sometimes we would break them. These are adjusted with screws. And I got my alignment rod in. I'm just making sure I want that pin to drop into the back of the frame. Yep. Just like that. We're going to make sure it's moving freely. Oh, we need a little bit more.
That looks good.
Yep, and there we are. We have that fit. We're going to tighten down a securing screw in the front. And then when this is all done, we would use this security check paste so you, the end user, doesn't adjust that. That paste goes in the holes and it covers up the screw heads, so we'll know if someone goes in there and plays with those adjustments. So now that we fit our yoke, we're going to move on forward. All right, so now we're going to fit the cylinder to the frame. We're going to be cutting on the yoke here in a minute. Here the Germans call them jokes because they can't pronounce the Y. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is.
So as you see, it does not fit. It does not fit in there. We have to do a little bit of cutting. That would be with this tool here. We're going to have to cut the length of the yoke, or joke if we're German. Then cut at this point. All right, so now we're going to have to cut the yoke to make it fit. That's using this tool. It has a pilot on the end that fits in the back. So now we just have to reassemble our cylinder, put it in the frame, and it fits like it should. No forward and back play at all, no in shake as we call it in the US. All right, and now we're going to go back and start putting together the insides of the revolver. First, Thomas loves grease, likes grease on everything. We put grease everywhere, lots of grease.
And we like blue grease.
And we like blue grease.
Yeah.
Because it's different.
No, it was an invention from Club 30. One of our old members did it. It has some special color integrants inside, so if they're getting older, the color will get more, it will lose the color. So you can see that it has an old grease in your gun.
So first we're going to put in the hammer and trigger, and we're going to make sure they move freely with the side plate on. We got to put grease on the side plate as well. Once again, Thomas loves grease. And then they set their side plate screws to a specific torque. Americans won't understand this, but it's 2 Newton meters. In your toolkit that you get with your gun, you'll get a very basic Allen wrench with it. You just want to make sure you snug those screws up if you have to take the side plate screws off, but you should not be inside the gun. So now we want to make sure that the hammer and trigger move freely. And then the trigger's moving freely. Now we're going to fit the trigger and the cylinder stop to make sure our cylinder is in proper alignment on each chamber. All right, so now we're using this alignment pin to check each chamber to make sure it is in line and with no resistance, and it'll just free fall in there, or almost free fall in there. And we would do this the whole way around and checking it all the way around to make sure they're in line. All right, so if you're working on your Spore or find yourself having to work on it here, the mainspring has a neat way you can capture it here. Down in your frame, you'll have some captured screws that are stored. They have no other purpose. They're not holding anything in. They're just there so you can work on your gun. You would take those out of those 2 holes at the bottom. This little screw here. And then it goes right here into the hammer strut shroud. It screws right into the side and lets you lock it down. So you have to push this spring down and compress it. You can do that with the hammer and the gun before you take it apart. Take that screw and you would lock it down. And that holds your spring in place so it's not going to fly out on you and go all across the room. All right, so Spore has another unique feature on their trigger here. It's different than Smith & Wesson. We have this extra pinhole here. It's used to capture the handspring. As you can see here, I've got this punch pushed through holding the spring back. It allows us to slide the hand right on in there and assemble it without having to hold. Normally we'd have to hold that handspring down with another punch. But now I'd say it just slides in, I pull the punch out, and my hand is captured by the spring. So with Spohr offering those different size hands, it makes it a whole lot easier to fit these cylinders. It helps us eliminate the side-to-side play, and it's a machine. It's not a cast or mem part, so the hardness is all the way through. It's not going to wear as much as other parts. Say it's going to leave the factory here with very minimal play, no in shake, very minimal side-to-side play. It's going to go to the proof house with a 30% overload, or we call those like a heavy charge in the United States, or maybe a double charge, or whatever you want to call it in the United States there. So the gun's subjected to a whole lot more pressure. That makes all these parts take a set, all those parts compact a little bit. It'll get just a hair, a tiny small fraction of movement then from that break-in process caused by those overloaded charges at the proof house. Then when it comes back here, the team of gunsmiths will refit all this stuff and recheck it all to make sure it's still within spec, so it leaves here just like it's leaving right now before the proof house. After, say, 50,000 rounds through my competition gun, I have some side-to-side play, a little bit of forward and back, but it's still very minimal, and that's after a whole lot of rounds. Fitting the guns this way using these totally machined parts makes them last a whole lot longer. So now we have to adjust the cylinder star just a little bit. It helps with it running smoothly. During the fitting process, there'll be some high spots left on the star that have to be removed away, and this prevents that hammer trigger or the hand drag that you'll feel it as roughness in the trigger pull. So all these have to be fit a little bit by hand here. And all I'm doing is removing the high spots on each one of the stars, or each one of the engagement surface on the cylinder star, or ratchet as we might call it in the United States. So next to be mounting the barrel, let's explain how this barrel and shroud system works a little bit. Their shroud system here has these index points in the front that you'll see. And you can see those little flats cut inside. You can see where these are here, where it locks in, and you have this recess that the barrel recesses inside of as well. How that works is that it engages on these flats here on the barrel. And this allows you to adjust the timing of the barrel to the face of the frame. It's a very ingenious system to where they can produce these and where they're almost finished, without having to do so much cutting on them and having to cut forcing cones and stuff later on. So this barrel here is cold hammer forged. It's a polygonal barrel, like all of Spohr revolvers. It makes them very easy to clean. I actually get increased velocity with them over my traditional cut rifling barrels like in my Smith & Wessons, because they get a better seal around the bullet. So there's some advantages there as well. You can shoot all types of bullets through them. We have lots of questions on that all the time. I've heard them over the past couple of years here. There's no problem with jacketed bullets, monometal bullets. Lead bullets should probably be coated with like a high-tech coating that we'd have in the United States would be fine. I shoot those as well. But say these barrels work out great with all this technology they have worked in with the shroud, where it indexes into the shroud. Like so, and you feel it's locked in, like I can't pivot it in the back now. On the standard like Smith & Wessons and Rugers and stuff in the US that use shrouded barrels now, the barrel just slides into the shroud and it free spins inside there. It doesn't lock in anywhere. And they have frame tabs where they cut a tab in the back of this barrel shroud and make it lock onto the frame. That's how we end up with those crooked sights and stuff. And we can't adjust them out without working on that frame tab, or sometimes even having to weld up the shroud to make it fit tight. These eliminate all that. We're putting this in and we're lining it up like a traditional solid barrel, but we have all the advantages of using a shrouded system. All right, so now I'm going to put some grease on these threads here and start fitting the barrel to the frame. Here they use some very special anti-seize here for stainless steel, and it helps keep the barrel from galling and sticking in the frame. Thomas loves grease, so we put it everywhere. And like all anti-seize, like in the USA, when you put anti-seize on one part, you end up with it all over you by the end of the day. So after putting all the grease on these barrel threads that Thomas loves to have on, we're going to screw the barrel in And say I'm just going to walk through this here because we're not going to torque this barrel on just yet. We have other work to do later on. But we want this barrel and shroud to stop just about like so. All right, and we would check its fitment against the cylinder, and a little bit of mathematical calculation has to be done on just how much to take off the back of the barrel to make the proper barrel cylinder gap. In imperial measurements, or what we use in the United States, it'd be about 4.5 thousandths is the gap we want. And they have a small tolerance range of about 1/1000th of an inch that they have to give or take on that. So at this point, if the barrel was tightened down against the cylinder the way we wanted it to, say once again, do the little mathematical calculation, go over to the lathe, face off the back of the barrel, and then come back and torque down the barrel, and that's it. And we have a nearly completed Spore ready to go to the proof house for its final testing with its overcharged load to ensure that your gun is safe coming to the United States. All right, so now you guys have seen how we put together a Spore. You've roughly seen how everything goes together in a really quick fashion here. All these highly precision machine parts, no cast or memmed. They fit together extremely well. There's quite a bit of hand fitting that still goes into these guns. But overall, I mean, they're a vast improvement over Smith & Wesson platforms in the United States. They've made all the improvements I wish I made as a gunsmith years ago in my shop. I wish I would have done this same thing, but Thomas beat me to the punch on producing his own firearm. We're going to be able to offer some great services for these in the United States, everywhere from trigger tuning to replacement parts to even Magnaporting possibly through Magnaport International there in Michigan. Lots of options coming to you in the future there in the United States with these, and look forward to bringing you all these great services into the U.S. and love supporting Thomas's Guns in the States. They're shooting competition with them, hunting, and more. So if you like what we're doing here, like and subscribe to our videos, follow along for more content, and we look forward to bringing you the next video shortly.